Welcome, A24 fans. This is Eric Kiska. I'm your host this week, and I'm drinking a Woodford Reserve, a special bottle from the Kentucky Derby. Up next, we have my lovely wife, Kelly.
Hey, it's me, the lovely wife, Kelly, and I'm drinking the same thing that my husband is drinking. After me, I'd like to introduce you to someone else whose name starts with K.
Good evening, world. My name is Kevin K. Konachek, and like Eric, I am also drinking a Woodford Reserve, but I am drinking a double-oaked barrel finish select version, which is quite delicious. Up next, we have the man with the plan, the man with the name, Cole. What are you drinking tonight, buddy?
Hi, my name is Cole William Whitlaw Gibson. I wish I was drinking Woodford. Turns out they stopped selling alcohol or liquor at 7 o'clock in South Carolina. So I am drinking the Elysium Space Dust IPA. It's got high alcohol content, high flavor, good times, just like my boy Blaze.
Wobble baby, wobble baby.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Blaze Fitzgerald Ryan the First. It must be a coincidence because I am also drinking Woodford Reserve tonight. I wonder if it has anything to do with the movie. Well, finally, we have a guest tonight, someone who should definitely introduce himself.
Yes, this is my sister, Caitlin Kiska. Caitlin, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm also drinking Woodford. I don't know what kind, though, because I'm in a hotel, and I ran down to the hotel bar, and I go, give me a double of Woodford. I have to do something really quickly, and I brought it back up. And so basically, I'm here to kind of lend my knowledge as someone who used to play poker for a living and talk about the poker aspects of this movie, which I think are really fascinating. So I'm excited to be here.
A24 on the rocks.
Yeah, so Caitlin, I wanted to start out with you talking a little bit about your poker playing days. You played online poker for a living, and you kind of moved all around the globe to play because this was before online poker was really legal in the United States, right?
Online poker, particularly I played online tournament poker for a living, which is one of you don't make that much money playing online tournament poker for a living, to be honest with you. But you also don't make that much money playing fucking live cash in Midwestern poker rooms either, to be honest with you, which we'll get into later about this movie. But so I came here to kind of lend some credence and talk about the gambling aspects of this movie as someone who has spent some time in Midwestern poker rooms and to talk about kind of that aspect of whether or not it's realistic. So
yes. So, today we are reviewing Mississippi Grind, starring Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn, who was also in Slow West, and Ryan Reynolds was, of course, in The Captive, as two other A24 movies. Ryan Reynolds is much more famous for Deadpool. Written and directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, it is a movie about a lonely and depressed gambling addict named Gerry who meets a charismatic wandering soul at a poker tournament in Iowa named Curtis. After a night out where Curtis and Gerry get along famously, we figure out Gerry owes money to a bookie, he hates his job, and his wife left him years ago. So he convinces Curtis to stake him some money and go on a road trip down to New Orleans so he can play in a high-stakes poker game, while also stopping in cities along the way to play in smaller poker tournaments. So my first question is to Blaze. When you met Curtis Vaughn, played by Ryan Reynolds, on a scale of 1 to 10, how erect were you?
Oh, I was rock hard. The Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. My nether regions gained 3 inches that night watching the wonderful Ryan Reynolds enter my screen.
If our listeners don't know, Blaze dresses up as Deadpool every year for Comic-Con and has based his whole personality on Deadpool, so we know he likes Curtis Vaughn. It's just a question of how much.
Well, to be fair, my Deadpool, it's assless chaps, so, I mean, that's the clear... The definition.
The superior Deadpool.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I think your cock is actually 3 inches, so when you saw him on screen, it doubled in size, is what you're saying.
Oh!
Shots fired.
Coming out with the insults right away.
On this podcast?
Blaze has a sister named Caitlin who was on our episode, what was the movie called again?
Obvious Child.
The obvious child, and she definitely roasted him a fair amount too. But yeah, so much of this movie depends on our main characters, Curtis and Gerry, and the performances of Ben Mendelsohn and Ryan Reynolds. So I'll go from there, asking each of you, how likable were they to you after that first night out? I'm going to ask Kelly this first, actually.
Neither of them were likable. Ben, I already knew or Jerry already knew what his situation was going to be right from the get-go, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be sad throughout this movie. And then Ryan Reynolds was just kind of doing a Ryan Reynolds, and he didn't seem like a real person who would exist in the world. So I didn't like these gentlemen from the beginning until the end.
Cole, you gave kind of a big reaction to that. What did you think of about these people?
Well, first off, Ryan Reynolds is a real person.
He got me. Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go out drinking and just, have a good old time at a dive bar with these two guys. I mean, they seem like two, pretty, chill, fun guys to go have a beer with, play some pool, just, get in general mischief. Overall, once you kind of get past that and you open up the veil, definitely kind of get into, sad vibes with them. So I would love to I think they're great drinking buddies, not great buddies.
Blaze, I know you like Curtis, but what about Jerry?
My initial reaction was I actually was a little skeptical of Curtis. He offers him a Woodford Reserve when they're playing poker at some dingy know-nothing casino, I believe. And he, when they say they only have bullet, he says, well, fuck it, you're paying for your own whiskey. And that was this game's about poker tells and stuff like that. So Curtis was clearly bullshitting Jerry, even though it was a double bluff. He actually did end up paying for it. So that whole night out up until when he wakes up on Curtis's couch, I was very skeptical of Curtis's intentions on what he wanted with Jerry. As we go down the movie, it sounds like they're both kind of fucked up in their own special way. Yeah, I was a little put off by Curtis, if I'm being completely honest, the first couple minutes.
Kevin, you?
So I actually enjoyed that scene, particularly because it did a good job of introducing us to our two main characters while still focusing on the poker that was being played. You saw some cool moments between Curtis's character trying to tell stories at the poker table, capturing the gaze and the attention of all the other players. You see moments between Jerry and the other players and talking about the tells, and you just start getting this vibe about the personalities right away while having this backdrop of a dingy casino, as Blaze alluded to. I was more interested that Ryan Reynolds' character was, like Kelly said, was being Ryan Reynolds-y. He was very much doing his one-liners and is coming off as a very likable guy that you would like to go drinking with, and I was kind of concerned there wasn't going to be some character development with him. That was kind of my initial reaction. Ben Mendelsohn's character, Jerry, I felt his kind of uneasiness, his inability to be confident in himself, and that was kind of a cool interest. So I liked the scene for introducing me to the characters, and it was fun to see where the movie went from there.
Caitlin, what did you think about Curtis's story of Tony Roundtree from Detroit and Curtis mentioning the Detroit casinos? And also a general question, how realistic were the poker games in here?
Okay, so first off, I really liked, particularly in the first scene, the depiction of this Midwestern poker room that's very dingy and everybody knows each other, and the muted tones, and it's also kind of depressing. And to be honest with you, we're not at a place in film where I can smell things, but that room just looked smelly. It smelled like stale cigarettes and old booze, and I liked that piece of it. I thought that was realistic. I like that they actually named every single Detroit casino to begin with. And one of the things too that I did like that was realistic is that when you meet these kind of gross gambly people that hang around pool rooms like this, they always have stories about Tony Roundtree or whatever, and they have all these over exaggerated stories which everyone knows are full of shit. Everyone's just being grandiose and trying to escape and things like that. To kind of your initial question about how likable were these people, one of the things that I do want to say is that if you are ever sitting at a poker table and someone starts buying you drinks, you should immediately have yourself on guard, not like the person, and know that there's something up. If you ever sit down at a poker table and someone random starts buying you drinks, you are the mark. You should probably leave, and get up to go to another table. Either that or just, be prepared to lose your money and just drink the person at the table. So it's an interesting movie, and I have a lot more to say, too, once we continue about how realistic the poker games were, so.
Okay. And yeah, was Jerry any good at poker telling from that first scene, do you think? They didn't show many hands in that first scene, did they?
No, so the whole premise of the movie that's kind of bullshit is that everything centers around not just tells, but by this guy having some sort of god level ability to read people, and that's not how poker works, either live or online. No one is actually that good, and this is a very 90s view of poker, right? That you're looking for someone to like twitch their leg or do something like that. That's not how poker has been played for a really long time, and anyone who's good at poker knows it's kind of bullshit. While there were pieces of this movie that were realistic, and poker players really loved this movie, which is weird. Like I went on Twitter and like a lot of really good poker players love this movie. This is a kind of realistic depiction of poker, but not a realistic depiction of good poker. And if you think that poker is won by looking at people's like someone scratching their nose, like I want to play poker with you because you're shit, to be honest with you. So yeah.
All right, well, from there, Gerry convinces Curtis to stake him some money to play in this big high-stakes poker game down in New Orleans, and they go on this road trip. They're going to stop places on the way. They even reference Huckleberry Finn as they're going down south. So the first stop they make is in St. Louis, where Curtis and Gerry meet up with Curtis's semi-love interest, Simone, played by Sienna Miller, who is a sex worker. Kelly, was Simone an intriguing enough character to you as one of the two female characters in here that get more than a couple minutes of screen time?
Yeah, she was intriguing. I think that my favorite scene with her and Curtis was when he's convincing her to come with him, and she's like, am I going to need to work on the road, or is everything going to be paid for me? And then it just tells you so much. His reaction to that, of being all excited to then being just like hopeless, just gives you a lot of backstory between these two that they didn't need to tell us, but rather showed us, which in any movie, that's, I think, the goal. Show us, don't tell. And they accomplished that in that scene, so I liked her.
All right. Blaze, same to you. What did you think of her and Curtis's relationship?
I thought it was way more complex, considering how little screen time she got long term. Show me, don't tell me. You could just tell that, in the few lines of dialogue that they spoke to each other, that they have a history of, will they, won't they. Kelly said he's kind of manipulative in the fact that, he gets to go off and travel the country and stuff like that. And he has this whole, his own gimmick is he's like, tell me something about your town. And he asks her, tell me about St. Louis. And she says this delightful story about how chocolates were first put on beds. I forget, Cary Grant, I believe, was the one who started it. According to her story, he got really defensive that she was in the hotel with someone, and that shows a lot about who his character is. That's when, for me, his character started cracking a little bit. His facade of carefree, I don't give a shit, hedonistic facade, it started cracking. It did show that he did care, but he was not committed enough. So I think they shoved a lot of cool, interesting things in a very short amount of time, but like Cole said, there wasn't really a true payoff. Sort of at the end, yeah, I thought it was way better than what both they deserved in that small amount of time.
For sure. Kevin, do you agree with what Blaze just said? Do you think that they really portrayed this relationship well in the small amount of time they gave actual FaceTime to each other,
I think that it was intentional to keep it kind of in the background as an intriguing factor about Ryan Reynolds' character while not making it a main plot point in the movie. I did enjoy that they brought it up just what felt like at the right amount of time. Obviously when he needs a place to crash, when he gets all of the money and decides to call her in the last moment, when he's having just moments of crisis. I did find it intriguing that it felt like he cared more about Gerry and helping Gerry, or maybe his other projects, than he did about making it right with his love interest. I can't remember the character's name, unfortunately, at the moment, but Simone, thank you. And that was intriguing in itself too. Like, what was more important to Curtis? The life on the road and the gambling and the fixing other people, including maybe Simone, or the actual person behind all of that? And I don't think the movie really answers that, and it keeps it intentionally vague for the viewer to kind of contemplate and decide on their own.
Caitlin, have you ever hired a sex worker to give you a massage on a steamboat in St. Louis while playing poker?
I wish. So I have so many things to say, because first off, I fucking hated this movie. I thought this movie was complete bullshit, to be honest with you. So to Kevin's point, Kevin was saying that this isn't a main plot point. So a few of you would kind of echoed that. Part of the whole idea behind the movie, at the very end, we see Gerry supposedly does right, and brings the money to his daughter. But then we see Ryan Reynolds in bed with another woman after promising Simone he's going to be with her and everything like that. One of the main plot points of the movie, to me, is that we see Gerry make it right, which in reality would never fucking happen. This guy is like the most degen of degen gamblers, and we see Ryan Reynolds still fucking other people, like, because again, he's also partially a sex addict. I think that's part of the whole shtick here. But where I really lost the plot with this movie is when they actually introduced these love interests, where we have these two men who are completely failing up, who are complete degens, who lose everything, who we have no idea what their actual source of money is, who meet two hookers with hearts of gold, who are just miraculously like fucking hot as fuck, like who love them regardless of the fact that they are broke motherfuckers who have nothing to bring to the table. And like all of this, I'm like, this doesn't even happen close to in reality. Like I'm like, is this like an acid dream that someone had? I don't really understand. Like when they started introducing the love interest, that's where I just got bored with this whole movie because I thought it was trite. It was played out. How many more hookers of hearts with hearts of gold do we need with like bullshit men? I think we've seen this all before. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Amen.
Cole.
Well, I don't really have anything to add because I agree with Caitlin a lot of her sentiment. I thought it was overall terrible.
But my favorite cameo in this movie, did anyone notice the wife who did the best job in the whole movie, the wife, when he goes to steal from the wife, is Calamity Jane from Deadwood.
I did not see
favorite.
Deadwood, but I've heard of that. So anyway, that night though, after Gerry like seemingly wins more money, he admits to Vanessa he has problems with money before he kind of plays a piano ballad for her, and you can tell these both are very sad people. Did this provide enough depth to Gerry's character to get you to root for him? I'm gonna give this one to Blaze.
I think the point of the movie is you're never supposed to root for Gerry.
Okay.
I think you're supposed to feel pity for him, and I think you're supposed to get in the head of an addict, a gambling addict, and someone who's like the worst type of gambling addict, the person that is willing to lie, cheat, and steal. I do think it was a reprieve, and I do think it was weird because it was for the first time, and basically the only time in the movie, he was honest with someone. And maybe because he knew in his heart that he was never going to see her again, that it was almost like therapy, because she said she was going to go out and do like wonderful things, and she's like, that's what I wanted to tell someone, because they just needed someone to talk to for the night. Am I supposed to root for Gerry after that? No, especially the shenanigans that he gets into, even, the next scene in Memphis. I do think it was a reprieve, and it was supposed to humanize him a little bit, and depending on how that worked, that's debatable, but I think that was the point of that little scene.
Yeah. Well, okay, so when they get down to Memphis, we really begin like Gerry's downslide into the pitfalls of gambling addiction, which is what this movie is really about. We knew he had it bad because earlier, we knew he owed a lot of money to a bookie, but this is really when we go down the rabbit hole here because, he first lies to Curtis about winning in Memphis before he convinces Curtis to make a pit stop in Little Rock to see his ex-wife to win her back. And he's really trying to, just go there, steal money out of her sock drawer. And Kevin, were they successful in painting a picture of a morose gambling addict?
Oh, 100%. Right off the get-go. He has got everybody's attention at the one scene where Curtis is asking how much money he owes, and he just basically says, a whole bunch to everybody. And that he can't even put a number on it. He can't even tell you who he owes, and he has to ditch out town. He's ditching phone calls the entire time. You laid it out perfectly, like the way he manipulates the scene, Curtis, the whole situation. It's just years and years and years and years, and he's just never going to stop. So that's why I completely agree with Caitlin in that sense. Like at the end, we're supposed to feel some sort of celebration of Gerry, like he's made it, or he's got it, he's done well. And at the end of the reality is he's not. All that money's going right back into the gambling world, and he's going to be dead before you know it. So.
Yeah, and, we'll get to that too, the kind of conclusion there. But, I mean, the crux of this movie is gambling addiction. And, Kelly, do you think that they portrayed that well? Like, to try to portray a movie about a gambling addict, there's actually not a ton of movies that go into the subject matter.
Did they do it well? Probably. I'm not super close to it. And I'm thinking, what did I know before and what did I learn after? Gambling addiction is sad and it creeps up and then it's all encompassing, and the movie just is that until it gets to the point like any addiction where you'll steal, you'll sell things, you'll forget about your children, etc., etc. I knew it was depressing and the movie showed me it was depressing. So did I learn anything? No. And that's kind of how I feel about that. I don't know. I had a bad taste in my mouth about this movie the whole time. I'm glad that a movie exists about this. I find it weird that a bunch of poker players like it, but
Yeah.
it was just like depressing in just like a tiring, boring way is how I felt about it. So
For sure. And, we've had, like, several movies here that have depicted addiction. The Spectacular Now, Amy. How do you think they portrayed the addiction, the gambling addiction, as opposed to drug or alcohol addiction, Cole?
So going back to like the scene that Kevin was talking about with Jerry, where he's explaining how much money he owes people, or Ryan Reynolds' character, what was his name?
Curtis.
Curtis is asking Jerry how much he owes. Like that scene where he kind of goes, puts his hands up, and you can really feel the emotion and feel like the heaviness, and like that guy is a pretty good actor. And I thought, man, this is gonna be like a solid movie and really explore that feeling and the emotion of a true addict who's just like, he owes money to everyone. He doesn't even know how deep he is. He just knows he has to keep, grinding away or whatever, doing his thing. But then it kind of lost track of it throughout the film and had weird tangents and stuff. And I feel like, the other movies that we've watched, I wasn't a part of the Amy review, but I watched the documentary and stuff. And I feel like those did a lot better of a portrayal of it, while this one, which is sad because there isn't a lot of things that dive into, gambling addiction, which is pretty prevalent. But this movie, I feel like, just kind of falls flat towards the end and doesn't really give you that, real impact. Because at the end, they all win and they all walk away happy. So that's not how it should work, because that's not how it ever works unless you're like the 0.0001% of the guys that, hit it big. So.
Caitlin, you've probably been around gambling addicts. Was it at least realistic, this movie, portraying gambling addicts?
So it's kind of like a little bit of a derogatory term in gambling to call someone a degen, but like there's people who are degens who are like, they're gambling addicts. And one of the things, like when you see a degen, like a degen will gamble on literally fucking anything. And that's one of the things I liked about this movie, is they showed that, where like literally but they showed it in such a heavy-handed way with him flipping the coin and all this kind of stuff. But like that is like, people who are really addicted gamblers will gamble on anything. One of the things they didn't show, particularly in these kind of Midwestern poker rooms, and it's part of the reason I don't like going to the casino, is that when you sit down to play poker with a lot of these people, they get really angry, they get fucking pissed off. There's like fist fights all the time in poker rooms, all the time, because of things like this. And they actually didn't captivate like the anger and the emotion you see. Like when you sit with these people at the table, you can tell they're gambling with money that they don't have. And like it's very visceral. And instead of actually showing us that, what we basically got treated to in this movie is, I started actually keeping track. I think we had 4 or 5 montages of men drinking and laughing to great music in the background. And I'm like, this movie was so long and bloated. And I'm like, how many more fucking montages of this do I need to see? And like, we're talking about this being like a realistic depiction of gambling addiction. Like, they're having fun being degen motherfuckers. And I guess maybe that is true. I don't know. But like this, how many more montages of them drinking, having a nice time, being assholes did we need? I didn't need, not more than 5, for Christ's sake, So
Kevin?
Speaking on that, the one scene that kind of totally lost me too was the scene in Memphis where he ends up losing on the river to that queen, and the person who beats him is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Jerry." Like, "Oh my God." Like, no, wait, no, that's absolutely not what would be going on at any moment. I don't care if you know this person for life. Like, you win on that, you're freaking high-fiving God. You just took the entire pot. So that, just wanted to toss it on that. It seemed weird.
And no one's reads are that good. Like everyone does have reads, like they call them hero calls. Everyone has hero calls that are good, but no one is like that calibrated. And that's kind of the bullshit about this movie too. Is like Jerry's supposedly so great at poker, he just always gets the bad hand, and it's like,
is he though? I don't know. Like, did he actually ever prove himself to be good at poker?
Yeah, he got second in that first tournament, right? And
I mean,
he was playing down the river. Like,
the whole idea is that his reads
second in the Iowa poker tournament, right?
Yeah, they show his reads being good every time though, where he like looks, they call it a soul read, where he like looks at them and he sees their fingers twitch,
Yeah.
and he's like, and they show it, and he goes, they don't have it, call, or so. Like, that's not how it works. Like, maybe occasionally it is, but not like, so.
Yeah, when he drops the joke about the granny and the motherfucker in the bingo hall, like, that was all big old guys.
That was a great joke.
That was a pretty great joke.
That was a good joke.
So he must have been a pretty good gambler because he started out with $2,000 from Curtis, and then had $200. He stole $200 petty cash from his job, and then he turned that into $7K, and then he got another $100. But then he ended up making all the way up to $10,600, and that's when he lost it all. So I mean, he turned $2,200 into $10,600. So he has to be pretty good, but they didn't show it, which is part of why this movie kind of sucks. It's just like, yeah, it just inferred, yeah, they're doing a good job. We're doing another montage.
Blaze?
Okay, I'm going to be super divisive, I guess, on this movie yet again. I really enjoyed the depiction of Gerry as a hard-as-luck gambler and addict. There was a lot of moments of cringe that it was like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Requiem for a Dream. I feel like it was like almost that version of for poker or for gambling. I really feel like when they're at the horse tracks and he goes on Toto's Revenge and he's like, Toto's Revenge.
That's kind of like the ass-to-ass scene in Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, and it's like, and Curtis is sitting there like, no, you have to take, Mississippi Grind. They should name a movie after that. Who's the favorite? And Gerry is so degenerate, and it's like, it starts like at the dog track when he's like, okay, if a guy with the glasses comes out of the bathroom, then we'll keep betting. And like, I don't know if you guys like didn't feel it, but like there were like just certain times where like my soul is being crushed as I'm watching this man throw his life away on the screen. I thought Dan Mendelsohn is his name. All I see is the guy
Ben Mendelsohn. Ben Mendelsohn.
All I see is the guy, the general from Star Wars Rogue One. But yeah, I really felt like he like played this character as well as I would want someone to play that character, because it really made me like feel something every time he lost, every time he tried to dig himself out of an insurmountable hole. So I loved it. I thought it was great. Cole, your opinion's terrible. I'm just kidding. That was really me.
Caitlin?
He did a phenomenal job playing the guy. I think he did a phenomenal job playing the guy. I loved, again, everyone keeps talking about the scene. It was my favorite scene where he goes, I owe everybody. And when he's at the dog track and he's just like losing his fucking mind, like it was good acting. I guess it was just, to me, it wasn't produced well, it wasn't written well, it wasn't directed well. I don't know what else to say. Does anyone else find this boring?
No.
Yeah, Kelly?
We paused the movie halfway through, and when we sat back down to watch it again, I was just like, because what else are they going to show me? What other story needs to be told? And it's just going on forever. You called it bloated. I totally agree. You mentioned the drinking montages. I'd like to also bring up the scenery montages for every new city. Let's show about 10 scenes of lower middle class laundromats and pubs and Midwest scenery, and we'll do it every single time. And we will just take it up out of your life, and it looks the same as the last city, but we will do it again next time we move. Yeah. And that's exhausting.
I will say what I learned was that St. Louis, Memphis, and New Orleans are all the same city, just in different temperatures.
Come on. Have you ever been to New Orleans?
No, I've never been to New Orleans, but they all had
get the
the
fuck
same...
out of here then.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, no,
New Orleans is...
According to this movie,
its own city, like, so unique.
According to this
on
movie,
this planet.
they all look the same. Like, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like I need to step in here and defend Blaze's opinion a little bit, because I feel like it's a little lopsided on not necessarily enjoying it. But we've all picked and choose things we've enjoyed about this movie and didn't like about this movie. But I will agree with Blaze's assessment on some of the emotional aspects of the interaction between Ryan Reynolds' character and Ben Mendelsohn's character. We kind of hit it on some of the moments at the bar, but just some of their interactions, it kind of felt buddy cop in some circumstances, which cut some levity to the otherwise depressing as shit subject matter that we were dealing with. There was some lines for some good jokes and some moments of some hope in there that kind of kept the viewer moving in the right direction. But at the end, we've kind of touched on how the ending felt flat and just those aspects of it. One thing we haven't talked about, which I'm sure Eric will mention, is that, and Caitlin did actually talk about, is the soundtrack, right? We get a ton of great blues music in this movie. Like,
Agreed.
tons of classic tracks and good cuts and just hit after hit after hit, which I'm sure is what you would hear in a lot of these Midwestern dive bars and places. And the blues is the music of New Orleans, the music of gambling, the music of these riverboats. It's synonymous with gambling in general, and I think the movie did a really good job of making us feel kind of that environment.
You've
Yeah,
been
like-
you've been to a Midwestern dive bar that plays great blues? Where are
Only
you
on the jukebox.
going?
Only on the jukebox.
Where are you
Only on the jukebox.
going?
Actually, Milwaukee does have some jazz clubs that are pretty unique.
Memphis
in that
is a
sense, too.
blues town. I mean, New Orleans is a,
A
little more known
jazz
for
club-
jazz, but it has a lot of good blues too. Yeah.
Let's not confuse a fucking jazz club with a Midwestern dive bar. Like those are two different things of bar. Like let's not do that.
Yeah.
Fair-
Well,
fair
okay.
enough.
New Orleans is specifically brass jazz, like it's like brass bands and stuff. But so Kelly touched on this a little bit, and I want to go more into like the film aspect of this. You know, a lot of the cinematography of this movie is establishing shots of St. Louis, Memphis, brief stop in Little Rock, New Orleans, and on top of that, there's a lot of montages of just Curtis and Gerry making stupid faces at each other, and a lot of close shots of Gerry and his opponents when they're playing poker. Those are kind of the most noteworthy shots, I think, in this movie for me. Cole, what did you think of the cinematography?
So I wrote down it felt like an 80s like film, but had none of the charm or like luster of it. I love 80s cinema, and like at a like initial feel, I felt like it was going to kind of be like, you know, the 80 kind of grainy and kind of feel it out, but then it just, I don't know, it didn't really make me feel anything after that. Like, again, I love 80s cinema, and I just couldn't, it just felt bland and blah and meh, and just like kind of the B-roll wasn't even very good, like Kelly said, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was there. It seemed like anyone could have directed this film, to be honest. There wasn't any like artistic take to anything.
Blaze, do you have any defense, or did you like the cinematography?
Cinematography was fine. Like I agree that I was being hyperbolic when I said that all three main cities were the same. I just how they were shot. There wasn't really anything interesting in those big, broad, wide shots. As far as like the conversational shots, though, like I really enjoyed it in the fact that because it's a movie about poker and gambling, I feel like when the camera was on their faces, it's stuck on their faces. Just so you could tell, like if they were doing a tell or a lie or whatever, a bluff, I feel like you were supposed to be in that almost casino feeling whenever Curtis and Gerry spoke, because they were both habitual liars. So I really feel like how they kept the camera on their faces at all times when they were on the screen, I really dug that. But as far as everything else, it was kind of run of the mill.
And Blaze, have you ever kneed somebody into a urinal?
No, but I used to get kneed into urinals all the time. Although,
Oh God, in high school?
I usually pay $50, but
Shut up.
Wait, is this an actual thing? I didn't know. No, I'm serious.
No, it's. I'm sure somebody has this kind of fetish, but no, I don't think it's Blaze does it.
Oh, so may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm still confused about this. So I liked Blaze, where Blaze was talking about how they're both habitual liars, which I loved. Like, because you're supposed to like Curtis a bit more, but they're both habitual liars, right? What did everyone make from the scene at the dog track where you find out he never bet on the horse Gerry wanted him? That's how I read it, right? That he never bet on the horse Gerry wanted him to bet on. He instead bet
didn't.
on his own horse and then stole all the money from Gerry. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't think he stole the money from Gerry, though. He just didn't tell Gerry who he was betting on. He bet his own money.
Well, it's
but
not that he stole
up until
it.
that point, he would have given him. He would have shared. It was a partnership, and that was the
But
division.
My
that
Gerry-
was like the
on
end.
Curtis is that he is obviously
Gerry lied to Curtis.
a sex and adrenaline like addict. That's his two vices, and we can tell from what like the grandiose stories that he's told, and the fact that we meet Roundtree or whatever in the end, who does know him, so he is a real person, that he hangs out with these gambling addicts basically for long enough until he doesn't want to drain them anymore, is how I take him as a character. So I think that when he got to that certain point with Gerry, he was like, we're not going any further. And I'm going to keep using my little magic trick of just betting for what seems to be the best choice in this dog race scenario. But I'm not going to enable this guy any further because there's something going on with whatever his mom's life story is and the way he just drops some money off for her and has to peace out. But I think that that's his thing, is he just like hangs out around some people during his adrenaline fixes and then drops them off at some point.
Blaze, so I'm going to clarify, Gerry lied to him about winning in Memphis and then lied to him about the real reason he was going to his ex-wife's house. That's why I was saying Gerry lied to Curtis, which led Curtis to kneeing him into the urinal.
Oh, no, I'm saying he need the hotel guest into the urinal, and they beat the shit out of Gerry.
Yeah, sorry, that's Curtis need a hotel guest into the urinal.
Yeah, you made it sound like he need Gerry.
Okay, yeah, sorry, that didn't happen, yeah.
I loved that scene, though, because, like, Gerry needed to get the shit beaten out of him.
Yeah.
And Curtis doesn't beat the shit out of him. He sets him up to get the shit beaten out of him, which is, like, even scummier. You know what I mean? Like, you won't even do your own dirty work.
He deserved it, though.
Like,
yeah.
but then he gets himself beaten up in the whole thing. The whole thing is, I'm like, what? Yeah.
Cool.
I had, like, starting out in this, I had, like, a weird theory, and I was hoping that it would come true, which it did not, but I think it would have made a better film. The whole entire time, the first, I don't know, like 30 minutes to an hour of this film, I was thinking that this may have been like a Fight Club scenario, and that Curtis was a theoretical leprechaun of good luck. And that was like Gerry's alter ego, because they talked about he saw the rainbow shot, and they talked about good luck and how Curtis showed up, and I thought it was going to be like a split personality because they were always kind of together and doing the same things or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I was really hoping it was going to take like that kind of turn of where, you know, Gerry is so self-deprecating that he can't believe that he has good luck, that he can only believe it if there's Curtis around.
What if Curtis is the real person and Gerry is the gambling addict inside of Curtis?
It would have been way better than what we got.
That's a solid theory.
Like Gerry is literally he's not, that's a good looking man. They're both good looking men. But like Gerry is the quote unquote ugly face of addiction inside of Curtis.
Because, I mean, we get Curtis's character talking about how he really doesn't, the difference between him and everyone else is that he doesn't play to win, right? And I think that brings up Kelly's point about he likes
people, he says.
He has his people, and maybe the adrenaline side of it. But that was interesting, too, how he made the difference. But then he showed his true colors when he needed the money for his mother. So, like, what's the true side of it, then? Is he needs the money.
Okay. I don't think he...
And the mother's also a hooker with a heart of gold. Like, how many more, like,
yeah, right.
what is going on here?
Okay, he did not originally plan on giving the money to her, I think. He won that money from the horse track by secretly betting on Mississippi Grind. He goes to play that one-on-one basketball game with that guy, and he wanted that guy to take the money from him. And I think the guy, like, was like, no, I'm not going to do it. He was like, okay, I'm betting on this guy if he's going to take it or not. And then he goes to the bar, we meet his mother, and he still has the money, and he leaves it for her.
This is why Kelly's your better half. She's just, like, angrily shaking her head, and this is why she's the better half.
Kelly.
I'm like, keep going, but I disagree. The whole reason he went to St. Louis is to give money to his mom for her birthday.
Wait, why St. Louis?
I'm sorry, I meant New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay. Well, okay,
They all
but who
look
knows
the
how
same
much
in the movie, like Blaze.
who knows how much money he definitely got the shit beat out of him and wanted that guy to look at his
Because
big envelope of money.
It's because he's an adrenaline junkie. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter
He
how
was-
much he's giving her. She only cares to see him, but he thinks that everything has a monetary value attached to it.
So, Kevin, does that him meeting his mother, did that give a good kind of origin story for him? Not origin story, but it kind of gives reasoning behind his actions, right?
A little bit. It lends to the sympathy that I kind of felt for him having, you know... So when I viewed Gerry and his relationship, some of you have kind of talked about it from like a parasitic side of it, like using it until gone, leeching all of that. I kind of saw it as more of a, I want to maybe help this guy, I guess. Because, I mean, I don't know. I was confused, I guess, during the film because I really did feel like Curtis had some good moments where he was looking out for Gerry, that he was trying to get him to stop when he was ahead, quit when he could. See his wife, rekindle that relationship. I felt there was genuineness from Curtis in those moments, trying to get him to maybe end some of his vice of behavior. But then we also don't get that proof, and maybe that's a conflict in the movie too. There, so
he
I'm
very
not really
literally enables him multiple times throughout the movie He like gives him money to gamble. He gets him drunk all the time, encourages him to gamble. You can't say that he's watching out for the dude while he's getting him wasted and encouraging him to gamble on his own money. Like that's just like
Jerry literally calls him like a leprechaun. There is something weird about Curtis, and he has like good luck randomly. Do you think that's right? Like it seems like he knows the right bets when to take them. Is he like? I mean, he doesn't gamble as much as Jerry, but he's definitely a gambler, right?
Look, the only way that Jerry gets out of all of his crippling debt is Curtis.
Yeah.
So that's what the relationship is.
Yeah, Caitlin, what kind of do you think he's a sex and adrenaline junkie, or do you think he actually has? He's a gambler too, right?
I mean, maybe this is supposed to be we're looking at it through the haze of people who are actually addicted gamblers, because the difference between people who are like smart gamblers is we realize that like gambling is variance. Like sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Sometimes like it's a game of odds, it's a game of math, etc., etc. But people who are like really addicted gamblers, like sometimes they think they're like they just know, like and that doesn't exist. That shit just doesn't exist. And so I there's no such thing as being a lucky person or like always having the right bet or always having the right call or like
in
the kind of
movies
weird,
there is.
I mean, yeah, that's why this is bullshit.
It's a movie, yeah.
It's a bullshit movie, and also, to be honest with you, like, the other thing is that we're all saying that this was a depressing movie about gambling addiction. When you meet people who are actually addicted gamblers, it's much more depressing than this. And that's why part of the reason I didn't like this is, like, this wasn't even that depressing about gambling addiction. Like, real gambling addiction is, like, this doesn't even scratch the fucking surface. Like, it's, yeah. So, this made gambling addiction, I think, look fun, to be honest with you.
Well, okay, I am going to kind of stick up a little bit for the entrance of the mother into the movie. I just feel like it does give him a little backstory where we know his mom was probably an aimless, like, kind of wandering musician. And that's kind of how he ends up. He's kind of an aimless wanderer. Blaze, do you kind of agree with that?
Okay, so I'm going to tie this all together at the end because I have a big Blaze theory about this movie, but okay. So I really like the idea that Jerry is a manifestation of Curtis's gambling. I really like that. But my interpretation of him is Curtis, the character, wants to be known for his stories. He's a storyteller. So he picks up Jerry because Jerry could be his next great story. He could be his next Tony Roundtree. So that's why he brings him along, because he wants to be next to the guy when he hits it big. So when he goes out to Salt Lake City or Newark or, Tallahassee, he can tell the next, dive bar about this great expansive story, because that's all he does. All he does is tell wonderful, great stories about, Tony Roundtree, how he bought he won a tiger in a game of poker and stuff like that. And so I really feel like Curtis is like a modern day, those hobos that used to ride the rails all over the country. He's a modern day storyteller, and that's what he wants to be known for. So, like, I really believe when he said, I don't care about winning, that's why I'm such a good, gambler. I really actually believed him, because it's not about the destination. For him, it's about the journey. So I really feel like he is the embodiment of someone who cares more about an experience than the actual end goal of whatever that goal is. And that's why he left Jerry in New Orleans, because in his mind, his story ended and there was nothing to tell. So he walked away.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get to the final scene of this movie. The end of the movie is Jerry going on this enormous winning streak. He starts out with, $100 that Curtis gave him, and he can't lose. He's playing all different types of games besides poker, and he's winning. Curtis, of course, happens upon Jerry at the casino again and joins him on this ride. It ends up with Jerry earning up to $250,000 in gambling winnings, playing different games, and he decides to bet all of the money he won on a game of craps, double or nothing. And then we don't really know if he actually won right away. We kind of think he did, but he just kind of like puts his hand on his head like, oh, shit. And then the next scene is them eating this magnificent feast, and Jerry doesn't seem happy or anything. This is where earlier people were saying like they just kind of ride off into the sunset, they're happy. I don't think Jerry seems happy at all. He's eating the steak, and he's like, I just want a cheeseburger. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem like he believes all of it happened. So, Kevin, what did you think of that final scene there?
Yeah, I was confused. I wasn't really sure what I was watching. Obviously, it was clear that he wasn't happy at all and that no amount of food would satisfy him and that he finally got what he was looking for, but it wasn't enough. And that kind of, I guess, muddled the whole character even further, because the entire time it felt like his motivation was to get this money and then solve all of his problems. But when that didn't happen, well, it left the viewer just kind of questioning what was going to happen next, and then we never really get that answer. So it was a moment of kind of confusion and not really sure what was happening with it, and it didn't really answer it either for me.
Blaze?
Okay. So, I'll just do my big Blaze Ryan theory right now, and we'll see how everyone feels about it. So, my big theory is that the roulette table never happened, and everything after that never happened. I think that as soon as he hit double zeros, Gerry probably died in a gutter somewhere, and Curtis made him live on through his great storytelling. I think this is true because, as we've been saying, that Curtis is also a habitual liar. I bring up the tiger thing. Tony Roundtree lived in a fucking ghetto, and there's no way he even owned a tiger, okay? That guy was also a degenerate gambler. So what happened as soon as he hits double zero is all what Curtis is telling some other poor schlub at a bar so that he can get a ride with him somewhere. Because there's no way that happened. There's no way there's a happy ending at all. I feel like everything is set up to be confusing because this wasn't a movie that was supposed to get a happy ending, but for some reason it did. So my only rationalization is that this is all a fabricated story told by Curtis to someone else to make his legacy bigger, about how he knew the guy that won in Baccarat on, Double or Nothing, $250,000. So that's my big theory, because that's the only thing that makes sense. And I really feel like, almost like Caitlin was saying, a manifestation of Gerry. Gerry became the tall tale, the Paul Bunyan in Curtis's life. So he ended up being just a story.
Cole, do you buy it?
No. Since we've had this conversation, and I've been thinking more and more about my theory about the Fight Club. I think I'm right with Fight Club. Because if you really think about it, I like the idea that Curtis is the main character and Gerry is the G-Gen inside of him. And if you think about it, the time when Gerry goes to his ex-wife and steals the money, Curtis refuses to go inside and stays in the car. That's the G-Gen going to steal from his ex-wife.
Oh!
And then when you go back into, where Gerry is winning all of the money and stuff, but then later, leaves, takes half the money and leaves and all that stuff, that doesn't happen. What really happened is Curtis, at that point, realizes he's made it. It doesn't need to bet again on the Double or Nothing. So he walks away, and in the next morning, that's when Gerry gets released from his psyche with the pseudo $500,000, and Curtis is left with his now closed addiction, where he has his $200 and something thousand. He can go live his life.
Yes, that is.
Kelly, do you buy that?
That's
Okay.
canon in my head.
Interesting theories. It says a lot about the movie that we have to make up these theories where there are no breadcrumbs in order to make this movie better. And I like both of them very much, but it's not what happened. But what I will say is that this scene, Eric, that you brought up, where we don't know if he just lost it all or if he actually won it, because it looks very sad. And then they're having this great meal where steak isn't good enough. I'd like a burger, please. It's almost like he's being cheap. And then you find out that he did win, but he doesn't look happy at all. That's my most favorite part of the whole movie, because it did nothing for him. And all it does for him is open up a new can of worms and new ability to gamble that away. And it's almost like he knows it. And as much as he could get his life back on track with this huge amount of winnings, it's not going to happen. And I think he knows it. So I liked that. That was my favorite moment that the director ever took, was not letting us know right away what happened right there.
And I agree there, actually. I don't think there's any kind of mysticism to this movie. They didn't show any mysticism throughout the whole movie. They didn't just, create this whole random fucking scenario in the end where something, that didn't happen on screen actually happened. I'm sorry. It didn't happen, guys. Come on.
I like Cole's idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Adam Savage approach from MythBusters. I'm gonna reject your reality and substitute my own. So fuck off, Kiskas. It's time for Fight Club.
It would make a better movie. It would
be a much better movie.
All right, well, let's get into the. Go ahead.
Can I throw in one more cinematography edit that I might make if I made this movie? Of course, because we're rewriting it. That's where we are at. But
it's so bad. Yes.
What I would like to do is kind of, and this happens in a lot of kind of casino movies where the saturation really kind of changes once you're in the casino environment. Once you're chasing that high, and they're just making like everything is low saturation, quite dirty and dusty looking. Give us some little bite visually of what they are getting from indulging in these vices on both sides of these characters. Just like, it's a movie, so just play with that a little bit. Give me something.
I think this is why poker players like this movie, though, is because they depict these kind of podunk, shitty poker rooms so well. And they're like dirty, musty, old, smoky, gross places. And that's what they are, and like that's why I think poker players like this, because it depicts that piece of the culture where everyone knows each other very well. So,
fair enough.
All right, well, let's get into the final scene. The next morning, Curtis is with a woman and silences Simone's call, even after he professed his love to Simone the night before on Curtis and Gerry's winning streak there. And he wakes up and realizes Gerry is gone. He opens up the safe where they were keeping their winnings, and Gerry was honorable and only took half the money and left a note saying he's off to Machu Picchu. Curtis then goes downstairs to check out and hits on a hotel clerk. Gerry is listening to 200 Poker Tells by Joe Navarro, which is a CD that was in his car kind of the whole movie, and they were listening to it throughout the movie. And one of the last tells Navarro says is when someone goes from slouching to sitting up straight with square shoulders, they're alpha. You know, they're not bluffing. They are actually, like, they have the cards, right? So that's the very end of the movie that we get. And the start of the movie is also him listening to these 200 poker tells. Kevin, what did you take from the very, very ending of the movie?
What did I take? I think that what I took from it is that nothing changed. Nothing about these characters was different from the interaction to each other. It could have started and ended at the exact same time from point A to point B, and Gerry is listening to the same tracks. Curtis is doing the same bullshit with the same people, and it's just a perpetual cycle. And that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Cole, what did you take from it?
From the end scene, I felt a feeling of disappointment and kind of unfulfillment. I mean, I liked how it kind of, did the poker thing all over again with the CD and stuff, but I don't know. I just felt like if you're going to tell a story about a gambling addict, why would you make them successful in the end? And, like, make it a happy movie versus, in A24, a lot of these films that we talk about, especially like the slice of life, which this one wasn't, but it could have been, and I think it could have been a very good slice of life gambling addict type movie where there isn't a happy ending or there really isn't closure. It's just, this gambling addict is going to continue to be an addict regardless of outside forces, unless, something, maybe they eventually break free, but, a lot of those times they don't. And I wish that was what this movie was. And I also think that for a film, I always talk about in this podcast, I love a good solid 90-minute film. Like a nice, tight 90-minute, like hour and a half in and out. You can tell a great story. This one was longer, didn't tell a great story. And like Caitlin and Kelly said, it was bloated and nah.
Blaze, I'll give the last words to you before we hit the ratings here.
I have one more thing to say after Blaze, actually.
Okay.
You go first. That's fine.
My favorite part of the movie, my absolute favorite part of the movie, like the devil's in the details, is when he goes to open the safe. Did anyone else notice what the code was?
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep.
What the actual fuck? I'm like, are these people supposed to be that stupid? And when he goes and does
They're
1, 2, 3, 4, and like...
They were probably drunk.
Yeah.
The fact that the money is still in the safe and the person he slept with didn't steal it with the fucking code being 1234. I'm like, this is just this movie.
Ryan Reynolds had the code tattooed on his leg.
Did he really?
Yeah, he just on his thigh it just said 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why, but it did.
With a really nice font too, and like they made the choice to give him all of these tattoos just to show them for a little bit. And
Blaze,
Yeah.
final words.
I'm going off of the actual ending, not me and Cole's harebrained theories. I feel like, again, I hate to reference Requiem for a Dream again, but it really feels like both of them, like, money isn't going to solve either of their problems. I feel like Ryan Reynolds clearly is like Cole. He has a thing for redheads, but he is going to be that adrenaline junkie, and he's going to, like, $250,000 is a lot of money, but it's not, like, the most money in the world, and they're both acting like they're set up for life.
Well, they end up with 500,000 because it's 250,000.
250 each.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And you gotta pay the tax man. Don't forget you gotta pay the tax man.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're talking like 180 each after everything's all said and done. So, I think Curtis is going to go on, and he's, like I said, whether my theory is right or wrong, he's going to go on and continue chasing that adrenaline of always on the move, always finding a new place, always finding the new, like, story to tell. He's never going to get to his Machu Picchu, because I think if he's like a dog chasing his tail. If he ever caught it, he wouldn't know what to do with it. Now, Gerry, on the other hand, he was the dog and he actually caught his tail, and he has a chance to start a new life, and I feel like they were trying to set it up, like, he has the picture of his daughter, and we learn all about his daughter and how, like, he never even calls her or sends birthday gifts or anything like that. Like, he's a really shitty dad. And they're doing the whole poker tell thing and stuff. So it really sounds like, again, Requiem for a Dream, it's all just a habitual cycle. He's going to lose it all in the next year, and then he's going to be right back where he started. He's going to be in Dubuque, Iowa, hating his job and gambling on weekends, and really he's just going to wither away. So it really was a dour ending when you think about it, because money's temporary, but stability is forever, and neither of them have stability in their lives.
All right. Well, let's get into the ratings here. I think I'm going to start out just because I haven't said much on the film overall. I did here and there, but so I agree with a lot of people here that the film, the two characters in this film did not change much at all between the start and the ending. The ending shows that I think Gerry at least realizes he is a very sad person, and that even winning $250,000, $500,000 from the tables at least too, but $250,000, he'll never have that hole in his heart filled. Like, he's going to keep on gambling, he's going to keep on being horrible with his money, and obviously Curtis, hits on the hotel clerk right after they win all this money, and it's just a never-ending cycle. And what do I take from a movie, though, that the main characters don't really change at all from the start to the ending? I think that kind of goes against just, like, story in general. Like, the whole point of story is that they go from A to B, and there's some kind of change. Either they get even worse, or they get better. And to me, this is all kind of a straight line the whole way through. Read Aristotle's Poetics for reference. And the cinematography here, though, I actually was okay with. I liked the cinematography. I didn't mind this establishing shots. I was okay with the close-ups of people talking and, the intense poker scenes here. The script had its bright points. It wasn't all good, but it had its bright points. And then I actually think that Ryan Reynolds, he kind of does embody Curtis Vaughn. Like, he is just kind of himself in the movie, but I think he was a good guy to play that character. And so was Ben Mendelsohn. He was a good guy to play Gerry. He did a phenomenal job acting. I'm not going to give this movie a great grade overall. I'm going to say it was entertaining. I agree it was bloated. They probably could have cut off about 20 minutes of montages of them just, like, laughing and being stupid with each other over music. Overall, I'm going to give this a C-. I think that, there's worse movies out there, and there was a few bright spots in here, and I kind of was okay with it. So, let's give this to Kevin next.
Excellent. So, when you review a movie, you look at it from a different lens. We've talked about this time again in this podcast. When you watch it and you enjoy it while you're watching it and then kind of pick it apart later, it does say something for the film in itself. I did enjoy this movie overall while watching it. since we've been talking about it, yes, we found some plot holes, we found some inconsistencies, we found some things that absolutely bring it down a couple of letter grades in general. But from not being an overly, we'll say, fluent movie head, that's been well established. This is all kind of new to me as we're going through. I did enjoy the movie in general. I thought the characters were excellent. The acting was superb from our two main characters. I think they both did an excellent job. Where the movie does fall flat is some of the plot points, some of the way that it kind of keeps motivations, and some of the other realism things that just call completely ridiculous in this movie. At the end, I will say that the director probably could have done a better job of keeping us invested from start to finish. We touched on the soundtrack. Music is always huge for me in movies, so it had an excellent one that kept me noticing the different vibes as it was going through. And in the end of the movie, it was something that, what we talk about recommending it for family and friends. I say I would recommend it in the sense that it does give an interesting look into the idea of a gambling addict and some of the things that they may deal with on a regular basis. But overall, it wasn't necessarily a fantastic movie. So for that reason, I give it a C plus 24, and we'll move on from there.
All right, Cole?
You know, I've talked a lot about this movie and some of my theories, which I think my theory makes this movie better. But there is some issues that I had with this movie. Cinematography was basically none. I thought like anyone could have shot this or essentially made this film. There's no artistic take to it. It was too long for a story that was told too poorly. As you guys know, I like to dive into some weird details. I did not understand why they went to Little Rock, because that's like a 200-mile trip, like out of the line. So if you like,
This is where his ex-wife lived.
well, okay, fair enough. I guess I missed that point. But like when you plot it, it's like a straight line, and they go to Little Rock and then zip back. So I missed that, which goes to the poor planning. I will say this film had an odd number of foot shots to make me think that Quentin Tarantino may have been involved or been a producer, because like there was quite a few that popped
Foot massages.
up. I also was trying to figure out if this, what was going on in this film overall in terms of the story and the arc, and they kept. I hate when there's like kind of convoluted plots of like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds' character Curtis, he just like randomly shows up and it's like, it's my mom's birthday. Turns out she's kind of a terrible person, but I'm gonna give her $5,000. We're gonna peace out and never talk about it again. Same thing with like Gerry and his ex-wife. You kind of get some depth, but don't really. But I'm gonna decide. I'm gonna think in my mind that it's the Fight Club thing. Even with that, I'm gonna give it a solid. I can't give it a C because that starts with my name and I don't want to be associated, so I'm going to give it a D plus 24.
All right, let's go to Blaze next.
Unlike everyone else, I really, 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 really enjoyed this movie. What you guys called bloated, I thought it was necessary scenes to show how uncaring they are about reality, the two main characters, and that they just feel like everything's just gonna be fine in the end. So I really do like those montage scenes. I like the scenes where they're talking in the car. I really, really, really love Gerry, Ben Mendelsohn's character. Just the way that they unzipped his character ever so slowly, because he looked like, even though that he was older than Curtis, he literally treated Curtis like his older brother throughout the entire film. He looked up to them. He wanted to be around him. He, would call him and be like, I'm at the same bar we were at the other night. And then it turns out like he's a monster piece of shit. And everything after Memphis, every scene that he was in, it made my stomach curl just a little bit more. Stealing from his ex-wife, finding out that he never talks to his child, taking the last $100 that Curtis gave him and going to the casino anyways. I feel like that was such a testament of what addiction is. Eric already said it. We've seen movies like Amy. We've seen Spectacular now. The way that they use addiction as a plot-moving device, I feel like it was very excellently done. I do stick to my theory still. I thought about it all day. I didn't think about it in 5 seconds like Cole did with his. I do, like I said, I like the cinematography for the most part, where, like Eric said, and I alluded to, that It kept on people's faces because faces were the most important part of, the movie and how they reacted to certain things. So I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a B. A B24. I really like this movie. The ending was a little shaky, but again, if me or Cole's theory holds up, then who knows? Maybe it's an A minus. This is a real under the skin movie. I wish you guys would rewatch it and really look at the cool undertones of this movie. So that's my piece. Also, I like this movie so much, I actually bought Woodford Reserve, and I put terrible bets on the Bears tonight. So I'm committed.
All right, Kelly?
Okay, we've talked about before with movies that I need to be made to care about our main characters. Take me along for the ride. Otherwise, why am I joining you? Gerry, I don't care about. Curtis is not a real type person. Story aside, I'm never feeling fully invested in these people, and I don't really care about them. In addition, it's a movie. All the shots are really lackluster. Cole was saying anybody could direct it. I agree. There's no flavor. Give me something to eat. I have nothing to eat. My eyes went very hungry with this movie. There's no underlying meaning. Like Blaze pointed out, watch it again and find one at the end. I didn't see that happening, and I couldn't see it happening on a second watch. What did I know before? I already mentioned this. Gambling addiction is sad, and this movie showed me that is the case. I don't think that there's this underlying story. I really like Cole's idea of what it could be especially, but I'm not given that either. Eric mentioned unchanging characters and how movies, a lot of the time, the whole thing is to take you along for this ride. One, I don't care about them, and then two, they don't change. I could understand why that might be a choice to make in this world of unchanging things and kind of dry camera work, but it's not for me. It's not my kind of flavor, and I don't think it's what makes a good movie. I don't appreciate it. I hate the drinking montages. I hate the other montages. I think that it's too light of a movie for an addiction story, and I think that's what they're trying to show at the end of the day, and they never really drive home anything, and the things that they do show are really obvious, like you see it coming a mile away. It doesn't really take you for a surprise, except for the end, when I kind of mentioned that director shot, where you don't know if he won or lost. That was more interesting, but he was going to steal from his wife. You know that all this kind of stuff is coming way ahead of time. And I disliked Curtis the most. He is just not who exists like this, and they're trying to really set it in this sad reality of things that are happening, so it's another spot for me where they missed it. Okay. That was all bad things. The more we talked about this movie, the more boring I remembered it being. So all of this said, it is a E plus 24.
Woo! All right, Caitlin, finish us out here.
I sat down excited to watch this. I was coming off the tail end of the cold, and everyone kind of knows that feeling where like you're feeling a little bit better, but you still are kind of like zapped of energy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know what I want to do? I'm excited to sit down and watch a movie. I don't care how long the movie is. Like, I don't have enough energy to do anything else. I want to watch a movie, relax, like got my Vernors, all this kind of stuff. And I sit down to watch this, and I'm like 45 minutes in, I'm like, this is a bad movie. Like, this just goes on. And I paused it multiple times to see how much longer I had to go. And I think that's like everything I can say about this movie is I kept saying like, how much longer does this go on? Like, it didn't give me anything. As I think Kelly summed up everything perfectly. It was boring and basic, and it wasn't entertaining. And again, I think for an addiction story, I want more. I want more grit. I want more so
What is your grade? We give an A plus 24 and an F minus 24.
If this was a student, I'd be like, listen, you don't want the grade, take a pass fail, and like, I'll give you a pass. Does that make any sense? Because the acting was good. I think the acting was really good. I think the acting was great. I did actually, as someone who spent time in these dingy Midwestern poker rooms, like they depicted them very well, but it was.
So would that be a D plus D probably?
Call it a pass 24.
Pass 24. Like this, I go. This isn't horrible, but this isn't. I wouldn't recommend anyone.
I'm gonna write you down for a D, just because we kind of need the grade for our average grade.
I will say my only issue with your review, Caitlin, is you said Vernors instead of Canada Dry. Why would you do that?
Vernors is so much better. It's the nectar of the gods.
Oh my god. You also eat poutine, you piece of garbage.
Exactly. Good Midwestern family over here. We eat our dinner at 4 o'clock. Like, what kind of shit are you into? Like,
They don't. It puts the poo in poutine.